Hey everyone, this is going to be a video reviewing reflections. Now, if you missed class on Monday or Tuesday this week, that would be December 7th or December 8th, then this video is for you. If you didn't miss class, maybe you just want a review of what we did in class, then you can also watch this video. Basically, in class today, we spent a while looking at different transformations and identifying them, and we learned specifically about how to work with reflections. This is an assignment that you can actually do. It's the Desmos activity we did in class. If you missed class, I've already emailed you a link to this Desmos activity. If you didn't miss class and you want access to it again, we did this activity in class. Just send me an email. I can send you the link and you can get access to it again. So here's the do now. If you're making up for class, you should do the do now, but it's not really related to reflections. So we're going to go right on to the second slide. So what is a reflection? A reflection is when we take a figure and it's flipped across some line. So as you can see, we've got this weird, I guess it's got 6 sides, and this figure is being flipped across this black line in the middle, right? Whatever we do on this side, it's being mirrored on the other side. Reflections are just like a mirror. So if you have this activity, you can play with it and see how it changes. You'll notice if I move something closer to the line, it gets closer on the other side. If I move the whole shape further away, it gets further away. Move the whole shape closer, it gets closer. Reflections can be on both sides, right? So now part of it's on this side, which means part of the reflection is going to be on the original side. Another thing you can do with reflections is you can actually change the line you're reflecting across. So right now we're reflecting across this vertical line in the middle, but we can change that. Maybe instead we want to reflect across a flat horizontal line. Same thing, except this time we're flipping up to down instead of side to side. You can also have reflections across a diagonal line. Same idea, now you're flipping diagonally. And with each of these you can mess around and see how the shape changes as you reflect across different kinds of lines. So if you're going through this activity because you missed class, make sure you answer all of these questions. This black line is actually called the line of reflection, and you can't have a reflection without a line of reflection. Because I could say that's a reflection, but then what am I reflecting it over? There's always a line somewhere. Maybe you don't always think about it, right? If you're looking in a mirror, the line of reflection is the mirror itself. If you're on a graph, the line of reflection may be the x-axis. It may already be there, but you always have a line of reflection. That is how shapes get reflected. So again, if you're going through this because you missed class, make sure you're answering all these questions, and make sure you're thinking specifically about exactly how you would describe a reflection to someone who hadn't heard of one before. One really important note is you'll notice the closer the figure gets, the closer the reflection gets, right? So if we move further away, it moves further away. Which means if we have let's say we have a flat top. If we have a spike on the back side, it's going to be on the other side over here. That spike moves closer. This side is moving closer too. So the points are always going to be the same distance away from the line of reflection. That's one thing you can notice. As we move the points away, the reflection gets further away from that line in the middle. As we move the points closer, the reflection gets closer until ultimately it crosses over. So that's a really important thing. The points are always equidistant away from this line. So if we consider this black point here, I don't know how far that is, but it's the same distance away on the other side. So then we spent some time sketching reflections. One way you can sketch reflections is just look at if this one asks us to reflect over the y-axis first. So this y-axis is this line straight up and down. So we just imagine this figure being flipped over. I like to plot the points first. So if we take this purple point, it's being flipped over, it probably ends up around there. The second point, it's being flipped over, maybe it ends up around here. And this last point, it's being flipped over, it probably ends up around here. And then it's just a matter of connecting the points. This is just a sketch, so it's not going to be perfect. As you can see, this line should be more straight, but you can see it's about a reflection across the y-axis. If you want to go through this, you should also sketch a reflection across the x-axis. That's the line from side to side. And then draw your own reflection in here. Maybe draw a line somewhere and draw that figure reflected across the line. Again, just imagine it being flipped. Now, we're looking at actually reflecting figures exactly. So before we were looking at sketches, how do we reflect a figure exactly? Well, this tool is cool because it allows you to actually drag these points. So one thing you can do is you just say, well, if I'm reflecting across the y-axis, which is this axis up and down, and the point A is 1 away from the y-axis, I know it's going to need to be 1 away on the other side. So point A is going to end up over here. We call this A prime. It's the new A. B is 1, 2 away from the y-axis, so it's going to be 1, 2 away on the other side. And with C, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have to count to get to the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, since we're reflecting over this vertical line, it's going to be staying on the same straight line. And we can see now our new reflection looks pretty good. Check it. Great work. We reflected it. And if you want to, you could find the coordinates of these new points, which are listed right here. That's what you should do if you're making up the classwork. So you'll notice that point A becomes -1, 3. Point B now becomes B prime. It becomes -2, 1. And point C becomes -5, 4. You can go on. On the next slide, it's a very similar activity. Again, we're reflecting across the y-axis, so we're taking these points to the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is 5, 5. Again, you can check and then fill in the table. Now, ultimately, what we're building towards, and what you'll do on slide 7 if you're working through this, is go back to these 2 slides and look at what patterns do you notice. So we start with point A, it's 1, 3. It gets reflected over the line, it becomes -1, 3. Point B, 2, 1, gets reflected over, it becomes -2, 1. And point C, 5, 4, gets reflected over, it becomes -5, 4. What is the pattern you're seeing there? If you're seeing a pattern and you're making up for class, you should go to slide 7 and actually write down the pattern you see. If you're just watching this as a review, you probably already know the pattern. And that pattern is that the x is becoming negative, right? It was +1, +3, now it's -1, +3. It's +2, +1, now -2, +1. +5, +4, now -5, +4. The y coordinate, the second coordinate, you'll notice, is staying the same. But when we reflect over the y-axis, when we flip from side to side, the x coordinate becomes negative. And if we were flipping back, then of course it would become positive. If it was already negative, it would flip back to being positive. So this is a pretty cool pattern that we noticed. Now I can tell you a point. Maybe I'll tell you the point 7, 8. And you could immediately tell me, well, if we reflect it over the y-axis, it's going to be -7, 8. So that's the pattern we're looking for here. Ultimately, working with transformations is all about looking for patterns. This is one pattern that we found in class. It only works if we're reflecting across the y-axis. If we're reflecting across the x-axis, obviously, then this is getting flipped down here, right? Points aren't the same. It's going to be a different pattern. And actually, that is the pattern you're going to look for on homework number 4.3. I hope this video has kind of helped walk you through this activity or given you a refresher if you already did this activity. If you want to do this activity again, I can send you the link. But really, it's just about looking for patterns. Hopefully this is helpful. If not, if you're still confused, we can set up a time to meet. Just send me an email and have a great day. Bye.